But instead, it turned into a life-changing treasure worth over $1 million. And the strangest part? Most people never even realized it was sitting quietly in their pocket change. The year was 2006. Millions of Lincoln Memorial pennies were struck at the Denver Mint, stamped with that small but familiar D Mint mark. On the surface, they looked like ordinary coins, plain copper-plated zinc pennies that blended in with every handful of change. But hidden among them, a few extraordinary mistakes slipped through, mistakes so rare and so valuable that today, a single one can sell for as much as $1.2 million. Collectors were stunned when the first discovery came to light. A man in Colorado was simply counting his change, when something about one penny didn't feel right. The shine, the strike, the tiniest detail under Lincoln's portrait. He almost dismissed it, but curiosity pulled him closer. And what he saw under the microscope left him speechless, but what he found wasn't just a coin. It was a miracle of minting history. For decades, the Denver Mint has been known for producing coins with precision. But in 2006, under the pressure of mass production, a handful of errors escaped unnoticed. Some coins were struck on the wrong type of planchet, blanks meant for other denominations. Others had dramatic double dies, with Lincoln's features slightly duplicated, creating ghost-like images on the coin. A few showed off-center strikes so extreme that Lincoln's head seemed pushed off to the side, leaving collectors in awe. And in the rarest cases, a 2006 penny was found struck with a razor-sharp finish normally reserved for proof coins, but released by mistake into everyday circulation. Dealers rushed to verify these finds. When the first coin hit auction, the room was electric. Bids climbed higher and higher. People who walked in expecting to spend a few $100s found themselves in a bidding war stretching into the hundreds of thousands. And when the hammer finally fell, the room sat in silence. That ordinary penny had just sold for a life-changing fortune, but the story doesn't end there. Because every time collectors think they've seen it all, another coin surfaces, with an error more dramatic, more spectacular, and more valuable than the last, and this is where things get truly shocking. One particular 2006 penny, struck on a rare transitional planchet, shocked the numismatic world when it sold for over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right, a penny, a coin worth 1 cent at face value, sold for nearly $1.2 million. Because rarity is everything. When only one or two coins exist with a specific error, the value skyrockets beyond imagination. Collectors know they may never see another example again in their lifetime. And that scarcity is what turns a penny into $1 million miracle. But what makes this story even more captivating is how often these treasures are overlooked. Imagine, someone empties their pocket change at the gas station, handing over a fortune without realizing it. Someone else tosses a coin into a tip jar, never knowing it could have paid off their mortgage. These life-changing pennies don't glow or shine in neon lights. They hide, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a bit of luck to uncover them, and here's the detail most people miss. On many of these valuable 2006 pennies, the doubling is subtle, so subtle that under normal light, it's almost invisible. But tilt the coin, and suddenly, the letters of Liberty or the date 2006 reveal faint shadows, ghost images that send collectors into a frenzy. That tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread of a Colorado man who found not one, but two of these rare pennies. At first, experts doubted it. Lightning couldn't strike twice. But when the coins were authenticated, the impossible became reality. Suddenly, collectors everywhere began checking their jars, drawers, and piggy banks, hoping they too might stumble across their own $1 million penny. Auction houses began receiving a flood of submissions. Some coins were worth a few $100s, small die chips, minor double strikes. Others reached into the thousands for more dramatic errors. But once in a while, one surfaced that carried the weight of history. Coins so rare they made headlines, coins that ordinary people had plucked from their change and transformed into fortunes, and the demand only grew. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, because every time one surfaces, its value pushes higher. The scarcity becomes sharper, the bidding wars more intense. Collectors who missed out on one sale fight even harder for the next, determined not to let the treasure slip away again. It's not just about money. It's about holding a piece of history, a mistake so rare that the government itself may not even know how many exist. Each coin is a story, a mystery, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to capture a fragment of era that was never meant to be seen, and here's the part you need to know, because this isn't just a story about millionaires at auctions. This could be your story. That if you have a 2006 penny with a small d under the date, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Examine the date for doubling, especially the 2006. Look at Lincoln's eye and lips. Do you see a faint duplicate image? That could be a double die worth thousands. Check the edges. Is the strike slightly off-center? That could multiply its value. Feel the weight. A normal 2006 penny should weigh 2.5 grams. If it's heavier, it could have been struck on a copper planchet, instantly making it worth tens of thousands, even more. And finally, if you see a proof-like mirror finish on a coin that should be ordinary, you may be holding one of the rarest mistakes of all, a 2060 penny that was never meant to leave the mint, a coin worth up to $1.2 million. So the next time you glance at your change, remember this. That small brown coin you're about to ignore could be the very one collectors have spent years searching for. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yet it became $1 million miracle. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, a coin so ordinary you almost don't give it a second glance. But what if that penny, a small copper piece minted in 1992, carried a secret that could change your life forever? A secret so rare, so unexpected, that collectors would pay over $1 million just to hold it. This is not just another penny. This is the 1992 VDB Lincoln penny, a coin that turned the coin-collecting world upside down. But how could something so small, so ordinary, be worth such an extraordinary fortune? To answer that, we need to go back to the US Mint in the early 1990s, a time when a tiny design change created one of the most astonishing errors in modern coinage history. In 1992, the Mint had prepared new dies for the upcoming 1993 penny. These dies featured a sharper, closer spacing between the letters in the word America on the reverse side. Collectors call this the close AM. But somehow, a few of these 1993 style dies slipped into production a year early. And not just at the Philadelphia Mint, but at Denver, where the coins bore a tiny D mint mark below the date. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. But look closely, and you'll see the AM in America almost touching, far different from the normal wide spacing used in 1992. This microscopic difference turned an everyday coin into one of the most sought-after rarities of the last 3 decades, but here's where the story takes a shocking turn. For years, nobody noticed. Millions of 1992 pennies changed hands at gas stations, supermarkets, and parking meters. Children tossed them into piggy banks. Adults let them collect dust in old jars. And all along, hiding in plain sight, were a handful of coins worth more than $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first discovery surfaced. It happened quietly, almost by accident. A man, searching through rolls of pennies from his local bank, spotted the strange closeness of the AM. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But after a magnifying glass confirmed the impossible, he sent the coin to a grading service. The verdict? Genuine. Rare. Valuable beyond belief. And when that coin hit the auction block, the bidding war that followed left even seasoned dealers speechless. What began as a penny in someone's pocket change became a life-changing payday. One tiny copper coin sold for nearly $1 million, but the story didn't end there, because as word spread, collectors everywhere began tearing through their change. Banks were flooded with requests for penny rolls. Families opened old coffee tins, searching through decades of forgotten coins. Dealers began offering staggering sums for even low-grade examples. And with each new discovery, the legend of the 1992 close AM penny grew. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2012, another example surfaced, this time in pristine, uncirculated condition. The bidding was fierce, the excitement electric. When the hammer finally fell, the coin sold for over $1 million. A penny, worth more than a luxury home. A coin so rare, fewer than 10 are believed to exist in the entire world. Think about that for a moment. Out of billions of pennies minted in 1992, only a handful carry this hidden treasure detail. And each one could be worth over $1 million, and here's the most thrilling part, they're still out there. In jars, in drawers, in loose change passed across counters every single day. The answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, timing, and mystery. Unlike older rarities that have been catalogued for centuries, the 1992 close AM wasn't even discovered until the 2000s. By then, most of the coins had been lost to circulation, worn down, or destroyed. The surviving examples became modern legends, a testament to the fact that life-changing treasures can hide in the most ordinary places. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors whisper about them at shows, swapping stories of near misses and incredible finds. And every time a new one appears, it makes headlines across the numismatic world. Here's what you need to look for. On the back of your 1992 penny, focus on the word America. Normally, the A and the M have a noticeable gap between them. But on the rare 1992 close AM variety, the letters almost touch, a subtle but unmistakable detail. And don't forget the mint mark. If your coin has a tiny D under the date and that close AM design on the reverse, you may be holding one of the rarest modern coins in American history. Be careful, though. Many people make mistakes when searching. Worn coins can trick the eye. Lighting can create illusions. And counterfeiters have even tried altering regular pennies to fake the close AM design. That's why experts recommend sending any suspicious find to a professional grading service. Only then can its true value be revealed. But imagine the moment. You drop your penny into an envelope. You mail it off, hoping, wondering, dreaming. Weeks later, the package returns. Inside, the coin is encased in a protective slab, labeled with the words, 1992 D close AM. The grade is high. The authenticity guaranteed. And suddenly, that penny you almost spent on a pack of gum is worth $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it could happen to you. Collectors often say that coins are history you can hold in your hand. But the 1992 D close AM penny is more than history. It's a reminder that fortune favors the curious, that hidden treasures are still waiting, even in the smallest corners of everyday life. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closer. Study every detail. Because the next time you see a 1992 D penny, you might not just be looking at spare change, you might be staring at a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was a simple 1981 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. Something you've seen thousands of times in your own change. But what made this one different? What invisible secret turned a coin worth a single cent into a fortune that stunned the coin world? The story begins with a collector who nearly overlooked it. He had dozens of pennies tossed into a jar, the kind of jar every family keeps on a kitchen counter. Dusty, ordinary, forgotten. But in that jar was a coin destined to make history, because the 1981 penny was hiding something. A hidden flaw. A tiny anomaly. A minting detail so rare that even seasoned coin dealers gasped when they saw it. And when it hit the auction block, bidders went to war. But here's where it gets shocking, this coin looked ordinary. No silver sheen. No dramatic doubling to the naked eye. Just a small brown penny with Lincoln's familiar face. And yet, collectors knew it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Why? Because of one tiny detail most people never notice. This detail transformed pocket change into treasure. But before we reveal it, you need to understand why 1981 was such a crucial year. The US Mint was preparing for a massive transition. Just 1 year later, in 1982, pennies switched from copper to zinc. That meant 1981 was the last full year of nearly pure copper cents. Already, every penny from that year carries a sense of history, a farewell to an era. Now imagine combining that historic shift with a minting mistake that slipped through undetected. That's where the $1 million miracle begins, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The owner of this penny thought it might be worth a few $100s. Maybe even 1,000 if he got lucky. When the bidding began, the room fell silent. Dealers leaned forward. The auctioneer raised his gavel. And then, an opening bid of $100,000. Gasps filled the room. Within seconds, the price doubled. Then tripled. By the time the bidding war was over, this little copper coin had crossed the unimaginable threshold of $1 million. $1 million, for a penny you could have easily overlooked in your own change, but here's the twist. Not every 1981 no-mint mark penny is worth a fortune. Most are still worth just 1 cent. The treasure lies in spotting the difference, and here's where you need to pay attention, because this is the part that could change your life. The $1 million 1981 penny is linked to a rare minting error. In some examples, the date shows subtle doubling. Lincoln's profile may appear slightly doubled along the edge of his jaw, or in the details of "In God We Trust." Even the "Liberty" inscription can look like it has a shadow, as if struck twice. Some pennies struck in 1981 without a mint mark were mistakenly made with experimental dies not meant for circulation. That microscopic difference created a coin so rare that only a handful are known to exist. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, every jar of pennies across America became a hunting ground for hidden treasure. Counterfeiters know the value of these coins. Many fake double dies and altered mint marks circulate, trying to fool eager collectors. That's why authentication is key. Reputable grading companies like PCGS and NGC have certified the $1 million 1981 pennies, giving them undeniable proof of authenticity. Still, imagine holding one in your hand. Imagine the weight of history. A penny minted in the final full year of copper, struck with an error so rare it became priceless. A coin that could sit unnoticed in a drawer for decades, only to emerge as a miracle worth over $1 million. But the story doesn't end there. Some 1981 pennies carry a different secret. A dramatic off-center strike, where Lincoln's face is shifted, leaving a crescent of blank copper. Others are double-struck, with the design stamped twice at odd angles. Each of these errors, depending on condition, can fetch thousands, and in the rarest cases, hundreds of thousands, and if one coin could climb to 1.4 million, who's to say the next discovery isn't waiting in your pocket right now? Think about it. The year was 1981. Millions of pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark. But only a handful carry the error that transforms them into legends. Every day, ordinary people spend these coins without knowing what they're holding. Cashiers hand them out as change. Children drop them into piggy banks. And hidden among them could be the next $1 million penny. But here's the chilling thought: how many of these rare coins have already been lost? Melted down. Tossed aside. Buried in landfills. Every lost penny is a lost fortune. Every overlooked detail could mean missing out on the discovery of a lifetime, yet, the dream remains alive for those who know what to look for. So let me teach you how to identify it. If you find a 1981 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, study it closely. Examine the date. Look for doubling in the "1" in Liberty, and in the motto, "In God We Trust." Check Lincoln's profile for ghost-like shadows. If the coin looks suspiciously sharp, unusual, or off-center, it could be one of the prized errors. Next, check the weight. A genuine 1981 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if struck in copper. If the weight is dramatically off, you may have a rare planchet error. Finally, condition matters. Coins in mint state condition, especially those graded MS-65 or higher, can fetch staggering sums. The difference between a penny worth $100 and one worth $1 million often comes down to preservation. This is why collectors across America still search. Because the dream is alive. Because lightning can strike in the unlikeliest of places. Because one man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and now, it could happen to you. Check your drawers. Open that old coin jar. Look again at the pennies you've ignored for years. The exact 1981 no-mint mark penny worth up to $1.4 million could be sitting right there, waiting to change your life forever, because this isn't just a coin. It's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. A piece of history. A miracle hiding in plain sight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looked like nothing more than a brown coin, tossed carelessly into a pocket, passed over in change, forgotten in a dusty jar. But this 1979 Lincoln penny with a tiny D beneath the date nearly ended up in the trash. And yet, one specimen shocked the coin world by selling for over $1 million. How can a coin you've seen thousands of times suddenly turn into a fortune? That's the mystery we're about to unlock. The year was 1979. America was changing. Inflation was rising, the dollar was losing value, and ordinary pennies seemed worth even less than ever. But hidden in the Denver Mint's production run of over 6 billion coins, was a mistake. A small, almost invisible detail that would change everything. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers hunt for it. And most people never see it until it's too late, but here's where the story takes a turn. A man in Colorado, sorting through his pocket change, spotted something odd. At first, he thought it was damage. A scratch, a dent, maybe just wear and tear. But the truth was far more shocking. That ordinary penny was one of the rarest errors ever produced. When he had it graded and authenticated, the numismatic community was stunned, and what happened next sent shockwaves through the entire coin world. The 1979 D Lincoln penny is usually worth just 1 cent, maybe a few dollars if in pristine condition. But certain error coins, double dies, off-center strikes, or one struck on the wrong metal, can catapult its value into the stratosphere. And in one legendary case, all the way to $1.50 million. Collectors were shocked. How could a coin so modern, so ordinary, command a price usually reserved for ancient rarities or gold pieces? The answer was buried in the tiniest of details. The D Mint mark itself. In some coins, the punch wasn't aligned properly. In others, it doubled, creating a ghost-like shadow beneath the letter. And in a handful, the penny was struck on the wrong planchet altogether, giving it the weight, shine, and mystery of a coin that never should have existed. But here's the part that sends chills down the spine of every collector: most people who owned these million-dollar pennies never knew it. They spent them at grocery stores, fed them into vending machines, dropped them into parking meters. Generational wealth, gone in an instant. This tiny coin, worth $1 million, could have been in your grandfather's wallet. It could be sitting in a coffee can in your garage right now. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auctions are breaking records. Stories circulate of ordinary Americans stumbling onto life-changing discoveries. One woman cleaning out her father's desk found a 1979 D penny that experts valued at over $100,000. Another man spotted one at a flea market, priced at just 25 cents. Within months, he walked away with a six-figure payday. But here's the twist most people don't realize: condition is everything. The coin that shattered records, the one that brought in close to $1.5 million, wasn't just rare, it was flawless. Graded at the highest level, preserved for decades without scratches, fingerprints, or discoloration. That's what transformed it from pocket change into a millionaire's treasure. And yet, the errors themselves don't care about condition. Even a circulated coin with the right mistake can be worth tens of thousands. Imagine checking your pocket, seeing a familiar brown penny, and then realizing the mint mark looks doubled. The date looks unusual. The strike seems off. Suddenly, your heart races. Because you know this isn't just a penny. It's a once-in-a-lifetime find. But here's what most people miss: the details so small, they never look twice. Some 1979 D pennies were struck on experimental planchets, leftover blanks meant for foreign coins or earlier compositions. That mistake created coins slightly lighter or heavier than normal. Collectors who weigh their pennies sometimes find one that's just a fraction off, and that fraction can mean the difference between 1 cent and $100,000. Can you imagine the shock of holding one in your hand? The disbelief? The rush of adrenaline as you realize this tiny disc of copper could pay off your house, your debts, your future, but the story doesn't stop there. Every time one of these coins surfaces, it reignites the frenzy. Dealers are flooded with calls. Collectors pour over their jars and drawers. And ordinary people suddenly see pennies in a new light. No longer worthless. No longer background noise in the world of money. But treasures waiting to be uncovered, and the million-dollar mystery only grows. Because experts believe there are still dozens, maybe hundreds, of undiscovered 1979 D-era pennies sitting in homes across America. Coins that could change lives, if only someone recognized them. This is where your story could begin. Right now. Tonight. Imagine pulling open that old coffee can in your basement. Imagine sliding open the drawer where your parents tossed their spare change. Imagine your eyes falling on a penny dated 1979, with a D mint mark beneath it, but before you dismiss it, look closer. Does the mint mark look doubled, faint, or misaligned? Does the coin feel slightly heavier or lighter than usual? Does the strike look off-center, the details blurred or ghost-like? These are the clues. The signs that what you're holding is no ordinary penny, but a million-dollar miracle. The story hasn't ended. The next record-breaking auction hasn't happened yet. The next ordinary American to stumble upon a fortune is still out there. Maybe it's you. First, check for that D mint mark beneath the date. Look closely for doubling or strange alignment. Second, examine the overall strike, sharpness, centering, and details. Third, if you suspect something, weigh the coin. A normal 1979 D penny should weigh 3.11 grams. Anything significantly different could signal a rare planchet error, and finally, the golden rule: if in doubt, never spend it. Get it checked. Even a worn coin with the right error could be worth thousands. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it shocked the world by being valued at over $1 million. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, so familiar, only to discover it's worth more than most people make in a lifetime. That's the haunting mystery of the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny that it looked like any other penny. A copper-colored coin you'd expect to find in a pocket, lying forgotten in a car cup holder, or buried at the bottom of an old coin jar. But one collector noticed something strange. Something hidden. And that small detail changed everything. You see, 2004 was supposed to be a normal year for the Lincoln penny. Millions upon millions were struck at the U.S. Mint. Pennies poured out with mint marks from Philadelphia and Denver. But somewhere in that massive sea of copper-plated zinc, a handful slipped through the cracks. They bore no mint mark at all. No tiny letter beneath the date. Just the number, 2004, and Lincoln's solemn profile staring into history. At first glance, it seemed like nothing more than a faint detail. But that faint detail turned ordinary pocket change into $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned. Dealers whispered in disbelief. Was it really possible? Could a 2004 penny with no mint mark be worth up to $1.6 million? The truth only deepened the mystery, because the missing mint mark wasn't just a random accident. It was a minting error so rare, so unlikely, that many thought it couldn't exist. Yet one penny proved them wrong. And when it surfaced at auction, the bidding war began. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Bids climbed higher and higher. At first, tens of thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. The auction room grew silent, tension crackling in the air as collectors realized what they were seeing wasn't just a coin. It was history. It was survival. It was destiny. And when the final hammer fell, the value had soared to nearly $1.6 million. A single penny, once dismissed as worthless, became a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Most people have no idea what to look for. They hold these coins in their hands and never notice the secret. They spend them, toss them aside, or let them slip through their fingers forever. One man's pocket change became a fortune, and yours could too. The answer lies in the detail most eyes ignore. On every Lincoln penny, you'll usually see a mint mark just below the year. A D for Denver. A P for Philadelphia. Sometimes an S for San Francisco. But on this rare 2004 version, there is nothing. No letter. Just an empty space, quietly whispering its secret, and that absence, that silence, is what makes it priceless. Collectors describe it as lightning in a bottle. The odds of such a mistake slipping past inspectors and entering circulation are so rare, it almost seems impossible. But impossible is what makes fortunes. Imagine the emotions of the person who first found it. Maybe they were just rolling up coins for the bank. Maybe they were short on cash and counting every cent. And then, they saw it. Something didn't look right. Their hearts skipped a beat. Their hands shook. Could it really be one of the rarest pennies in American history? They sent it for grading, expecting maybe a small error worth a few hundred. But when the experts confirmed it, the world turned upside down. Suddenly, what they thought was a single cent became a symbol of fate, a ticket into the record books, a coin worth $1.6 million, but here's where the story twists again. Because for every collector who dreams of finding one, there are countless others who've missed it. They've spent the coin without looking. They've let it vanish into circulation, never knowing they were holding a fortune, and that's why you need to know what to search for. Because even today, this penny could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, hiding in a jar of coins, waiting in your pocket right now. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 2004 penny missing its mint mark. Some have even offered 6 figures just for a chance to secure one before it ever reaches auction. Why? Because they know the market is on fire. Rare errors like this don't just hold their value, they skyrocket. And once a coin like this disappears into a private collection, it may never see the light of day again. But this isn't just about money. It's about mystery. It's about the thrill of discovery. It's about knowing that even in something as ordinary as a penny, a hidden fortune can lie waiting. The U.S. Mint has never revealed how many slipped through. Some say only a handful exist. Others whisper that dozens might be hiding in circulation. But one thing is certain, every time someone discovers one, the value of the others climbs higher. Look closely at the year. If you see 2004 and there's no mint mark below it, don't spend it. Don't toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Compare it to other pennies. If it's missing the P or the D, you might just be holding a miracle, but be warned, not every missing mint mark is genuine. Some coins are worn down, others are altered, and many are simply fakes. That's why professional grading is essential. Only a certified grading service can confirm whether you've discovered the real thing. Collectors who've made that discovery describe it as life-changing. One called it like winning the lottery, but better, because I earned it just by paying attention. Another said, I thought it was just a penny. Now it's my retirement. Think about that for a moment. The power to change your life could be sitting in your hands right now. This isn't just a story about a coin. It's about opportunity. About vigilance. About the treasures hidden in plain sight. And about the fact that history, luck, and destiny sometimes come together in the smallest, most unlikely places. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you glance into that old coin jar, when you reach for change at the grocery store, remember this: a 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark once sold for up to $1.6 million, and this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a jar of spare change, but instead, it became worth nearly $2 million. Imagine finding a simple 1989 penny, with no mint mark, and discovering it could change your life forever. Most people wouldn't look twice at it. But hidden inside this unassuming little coin is a secret so powerful, it has stunned collectors, shocked dealers, and rewritten the way people look at their pocket change. Back in 1989, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. They were everywhere, in cash registers, vending machines, parking meters. Ordinary, everyday copper-plated zinc cents. Or at least, that's what people thought. But among those billions, a few mysterious survivors carried a tiny difference. A detail so subtle, even trained eyes missed it for years. And that difference is why one of these coins sold for over $1.7 million. At first glance, the 1989 penny with no mint mark looks just like the billions of others. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the sharp lettering, the proud Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But here's where it gets interesting. Some of these coins were struck with errors. Some show doubling in the lettering. Some have misaligned dies, weak strikes, or other peculiarities that turn a common penny into a collector's holy grail. And then there's the most shocking discovery of all, the 1989 penny with no mint mark, struck so perfectly and preserved in such pristine condition, that it became one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever recorded. Collectors whisper about the day it was discovered. A man was sorting through a handful of pocket change, never expecting anything extraordinary. He set aside a penny that looked unusually sharp, almost as if it had been frozen in time. What he didn't know was that this very coin, after professional grading, would ignite a frenzy in the numismatic world. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin reached auction, the bidding began modestly. Collectors recognized it as special, but no one could have predicted how far the price would climb. The atmosphere was electric. Dealers leaned forward in their seats, whispers filled the room, and the auctioneer's gavel kept rising higher and higher. 10,000, 100,000, 500,000, and still the numbers climbed. Finally, with the whole room on edge, the hammer came down. The final price? Over $1.7 million. For a penny most people would have spent on candy. What makes this coin so valuable? It's a combination of factors: rarity, condition, and history. You see, in 1989, the mint wasn't supposed to produce pennies without mint marks in certain conditions. Yet a small number slipped through, creating a scarcity no one anticipated. Combine that with flawless preservation, graded at the highest possible level, and you've got a coin that collectors would do anything to own. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Think about it. How many times have you tossed pennies into a jar, never bothering to check the date or details? What if one of those ordinary-looking coins carried a hidden fortune? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And the thought sends chills down the spine of every collector who dares to dream. But this story doesn't end here. Because the 1989 penny has layers of intrigue. Some were struck with double dies, where the date and lettering appear shadowed, like a ghostly echo. Others show small misprints so subtle, you need a magnifying glass to see them. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on these variations, and every new discovery sends waves of excitement through the community. Dealers are paying top dollar. And the mystery keeps growing. Just imagine, every coin you touch could carry untold value. Every penny you spend without looking could be the one that changes your life. And this isn't just a dream. It has already happened. A 1989 no mint mark penny, ordinary to the untrained eye, became a life-changing treasure. And the truth is, another one could still be out there, waiting to be found. 1989, then check for the absence of a mint mark below the year. A Philadelphia minted penny with no mint mark is normal, but the real treasure lies in spotting unusual features. Look closely for sharp strikes, doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," or anything that looks slightly different from the pennies you see every day. Next, check the coin's condition. Even a tiny scratch or discoloration can drop its value. The $1 million examples were flawless, preserved as if time itself had stood still. That's why collectors often store them carefully, away from air, moisture, and touch. Most importantly, don't dismiss what looks ordinary. Many people throw away the very coins that could have made them rich. Think about the irony: a penny worth $1 million could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, while its owner walks past it every day, never knowing. Collectors were shocked when the 1989 penny reached over $1.7 million. They couldn't believe something so small, so ordinary, could hold such staggering value. But that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just metal. It's history, mystery, and the thrill of the hunt. It's the chance to uncover a hidden fortune where no one else thought to look. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the pennies. Hold each one up to the light. Look closely. That tiny coin in your hand might not just be pocket change. It might be the ticket to a new life. The 1989 no-mint mark penny worth up to $1.7 million is real. It exists. And if someone else found one, so can you. And maybe, just maybe, your next discovery will shock the world all over again. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.